Hi, my name is Johnny Jackson, and I'd like to tell you how the beginning of the universe works. Earth, there's nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing. How do you define nothing? Nothing cannot have a geometric representation that's constantly the same geometric representation. It cannot have a stable volume that's perpetually the same exact volume. It has to have a decreasing volume, and it has to have an increasing integer number for its geometric representation. This is true throughout the universe. There are two ways to begin the universe. The first way is using void as a centralized position in its entirety. The problem is with void, it can't have a centralized position. The only way you can do that is by appending an escalation sides to it. So you append one second dimensional portion of property from void in adjacent, and it does it in every direction. But if you want an escalation, this is how it would go. You append that one second dimensional portion of property. Upon that impedance of it, it assigns a placeholder value in reference to the new occurrence of that property where void was. So that also appends another placeholder value. It does this simultaneously, and it does this on both sides, and does this on each adjacent side simultaneously. Then it triangulates from a triple position and decreases the integer number while perpetually increasing the volume or decreasing the volume. The triangulation process happens when the reference process happens. So this is a dual point whenever two properties of the universe add together to create a new property, not the same exact one, and not numerical value. When two variants within any dimension occur, they occur maintaining the same property with the numerical value alternate or with another property that's alternate. When on the onset of the first property to the second property, or the void to the second property, um, you get a second dimensional line. That second dimensional line is the first onset of the second dimension. And then you have the triangulation process, which occurs after you get the circle, which is basically a sphere instead. This all happens pretty much simultaneously, but we need an escalation from one to up for dimensions. When you get those reference points, the integer number decreases. It increases, and the curvature of the sphere becomes smooth. It wouldn't start out as a sphere though. It started out like something similar to a diamond, or something similar to a T, or something like that. It's better for a diamond though, because a diamond allows you to continuously perpetuate the integer and eventually come out to a sphere. Then whatever, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. The two-sided pyramid then. Oh wow! So I guess you're just continuously cutting those integers in half, and what do you get? Um, you can do that indefinitely, and what you'll get is a pointed representation of the universe rather than a second dimensional plane representation of the universe. You can do the same thing with second dimensional plane, but you have to apply it such as this: void surrounded by property, and property will have to be at each and every integer space surrounding void. So property would be a second dimensional plane, not a second dimensional line. It would go on eternally for x and y. If it ever has a three-dimensional shape, which is what it'll gain if it gained a z, or if it had an edge, it doesn't have these. So if it doesn't have these, it's safe to say that it can interact from the center of the universe to every other portion of the universe after the onset of its first occurrence. Once you begin this process like this, you have to reestablish the second dimensional line property from the first one. It begins the same referencing. It begins continuously as long as there's nothing on one side, and second dimensional line of property on the other side. Then you will be able to continue on the universe perpetually. The integers that you accumulate, or the size that you accumulate to the perpetuation of the integer value or the side value avoid with the decreasing volume. It decreases in volume because the integers also do this extrapolatively. So they do this outside of the center of the void or the second dimensional lines of property. It's surface here. Once this is done, you're able to replicate the same center surrounding it. It does a fractal. Every single thing in the universe does the same thing. It repeats the same property. It has to go down to zero, and it has to be able to escalate from zero up, maintaining that property in various forms, whether it's adding itself together, replicating itself by by repeating itself after a certain accumulation that you're able to define. Does so. So once you do that, you're able to get the same center surrounding itself. As the integer values increase, you get what's called